talent and experience still has value on the open market. Owning your own small business can help you convert your skills into profits. Tune in to the Global Entrepreneur Radio Show each week as we strive to help you plan, start, grow, and profit from self-employment without many of the headaches and pitfalls that could slow your progress. The Global Entrepreneur Radio team is committed to bringing you information that can fast-track your business concept from a blueprint on a napkin all the way to a job-creating, community-building, economic resource within the market. Our resource partners are committed to providing support along your journey. Never take another business step feeling alone again. Together, we can rebuild our economy one small business at a time. Now here's your host, Johnny Profit.
Hey, good afternoon. It is 1 minute past the hour. This is Johnny Profit talking to you. We're live this afternoon. Sorry we missed you last week. We had a lot going on. So, Faith, you want to say a little howdy?
Howdy, Houston.
Howdy, Houston. So we changed the name last week. We were sitting there, we were brainstorming. I thought to myself, we Ustream this. We have a lot of events coming up. So I thought it was appropriate that we actually named it Global Entrepreneur Broadcast. And so we got a couple yays behind that, so we changed the name. So we're going to be working on that. So from here on out, instead of GRE, it will be GEB, or GER, it will be GEB. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
Okay, I got that right. Okay, good. So anyway, so I'm excited. We got a tech show up today, and Faith has her word of the day. But the reason it's a tech show is because I got some really techie entrepreneurs in here. So this isn't your typical, they're going to be boring us with a bunch of statistics and things like that. These are folks that actually I call entrepreneurs, which we know there's a big difference between what the rest of the world labels an entrepreneur. So an entrepreneur, once again, from the PERT Center standpoint, is not one who takes risk, but one who realigns resources within the marketplace. That's what we do. So they may not take a risk, but they're going to make some stuff happen. So my first guest I have with me, which will both all be on the air at the same time, it's Leslie Wilson. And I know Leslie from a very special program, but more importantly, I know him as I Am Brand, LLC. Mm-hmm. I also met my new BFF, Neil Patel. We were hanging out the other night, and I saw him. He looked like a guy that really had it together. We started talking, and I confirmed that he really had it going on. Neil, how you doing?
I'm doing great, thank you. How are you?
And it's, you know what, we're here today. It's a beautiful day. We're 11 stories up, and we're on air, so it can't get any better than that. So I think we got a couple seconds before we go to break. But when we come back, we're going to talk about tech. But we're going to start out with Faith's word of the day. Which, Faith, go ahead and preface them with the word of the day.
All right, guys. Well, the word of the day is strategy.
Strategy. So you think right now what strategy means to you, and when we come back, we're going to discuss that. And then after that, we're going to get into those things that make your company more effective and more efficient when it comes to technology. We'll be right back after these messages. SCORE, Counselors to America's Small Business, is a nonprofit association dedicated to entrepreneur education and the formation, growth, and success of small businesses nationwide. SCORE has 389 chapters and locations throughout the United States and its territories, with 10,500 volunteers nationwide. SCORE, founded in 1964, is a resource partner with the United States Small Business Administration. Houston, Texas chapter of SCORE, with more than 70 volunteers, has been helping entrepreneurs and small business owners in Houston for over 40 years. They are real-world professionals with time-tested knowledge who donate thousands of hours to help small businesses succeed. Counselors are experts in areas such as accounting, finance, marketing, management, and business plan preparation. You can visit them at their main office at 8701 South Gessner here in Houston, Texas, or just give them a call at 713-487-6565. Check them out online at scorehouston.org.
Globally, there are over 4.5 billion mobile phone subscribers. There's also an expected $17 billion that will be spent on apps for these devices by 2012. Even though times may be tough in the real economy, the virtual world is just heating up. The folks at I Am Brand, LLC can help you leverage this gold rush opportunity through their mobile app and social media expertise. Start increasing your sales and customer retention through their numerous services and products. Contact I Am Brand, LLC at 888-746-8383. Again, that's 888-746-8383.
You're listening to the Global Entrepreneur Radio Show on 1480 AM. Give us a call at 713-784-1480. 713-784-1480.
All right, and it's 5 minutes past the hour. You're listening to Global Entrepreneur Broadcast, the new title of the show. So anyway, we're going to get into strategy with Leslie, Neil, and Faith. And I want to say hi to Carlos. Hi, Carlos. Hey. Carlos makes all this happen because he did a great job of training and bringing up Faith to the point that she is a real live DJ.
Thanks, Carlos.
Thanks, Carlos. He's awesome. Okay, so Faith, what do you got on the word strategy?
Okay, so the definition I have here is strategy is a method or plan chosen to bring about a desired future, such as achievement of a goal or a solution to a problem. So I guess when I think about it, it's the way you construct something to get from point A to point B. Pretty basic definition, but as always, we need your definition.
Ta-da. So the per-center definition of strategy has less to do, it's really along the lines of what you just said, okay? But I think one of the biggest parts that is truly missing or not emphasized in that has to do with you need a direction to begin with. And so often that people will jump into business and they're just out there. Whatever happens, whatever comes their way, that's what they're going to roll with. And I think going back to that analogy I always use when it comes to flying airplanes, you know, when it comes to flight plans, we're very strategic in how we make it happen. We're looking for clouds, we're looking for wind, we're looking for storms, we're counting our fuel. And I think often people lose track of the simple fact that you got to have a destination. And so now I'm going to chime in. I'm going to ask my new best friends here in tech to chime in. Neil, what do you think about strategy?
I think from a strategic standpoint, obviously what Faith had just mentioned is pretty much, I'm going to ditto that. But I think in my opinion, strategy is taking a direction, certainly from a business standpoint, where, case in point, for example, if you've got 10 people following a path and you're competing with those 10 people, you need to strategize to basically overcome what they're doing. A great example of that is, certainly from an IT standpoint, September 11th is a turning point for me and my company. The newscasters were talking about a global depression. They were talking about how travel is going to change and all this good stuff.
Right.
And that resulted in basically, for my company, where we strategize from the standpoint of, well, okay, if everybody's seeing the same newscast I'm seeing, what are other tech companies going to be doing? And you need to be thinking about what your competition's doing and then strategize. And what happened for me was I saw other tech companies, same size as mine, and maybe smaller and maybe a little bit larger, laying people off because they wanted to conserve their funds. And what I did was do the opposite. What I did is I hired everybody they were laying off, but I hired them smartly. I hired them as independent consultants. It doesn't cost me a dime until I use them.
Right.
Naturally, what happens as a customer, when you call into those companies that are laying people off, and they say, oh, sorry, I can't send a guy out because we don't have the bandwidth. They're going to end up calling somebody that does have bandwidth. Guess who that person was?
That was you.
That was me.
Hey, nice strategy.
So to me, that was strategy.
Right.
And it comes in different forms for different people, depending on what kind of business you're in.
Absolutely.
But, achieving your goal is really the end result of any strategy.
Right.
And how you get there, I mean, you've got to take into consideration environment, monetary issues, your competition, and the general economy and as a whole.
That's awesome. Leslie, what's your take on strategy?
I think, to me, as a former Big Five consultant, a lot of what I looked at is strategy is that we always put roadmaps together. So before we would actually apply a strategy, we always say, okay, let's look at your roadmap. Let's look at where you're trying to go, just as your analogy was around the flight and how you're looking at the different clouds and everything and patterns. And so for us, the strategy was, to go in and say, we're not here to solve a technical problem. We're here to solve a business problem.
Yeah.
And so what is the strategy? What is your business? What's paying you right now in your business? And so around that, we look at what's the process in creating a strategic plan to get them on that path. And then when you get to the point where you've gotten some business requirements and you got some analysis done, you got that, and then you say, okay, this is how the technology is going to enable that.
Gotcha.
It is an enabler. It is not starting out talking tech talk. It really is a business conversation. So when I look at kind of how my life is kind of manifested, as my colleague says, we're both the former accounting finance guys.
Gotcha.
So we started off in the business over here, and then somehow we matriculated over to the technology side.
Right.
But to his point, as we were talking earlier, there's an analytical process here that kind of goes with the flow. So if you're good with numbers and you're good with programming, you're good with logic, it all kind of flows into it. Right. So as it pertains to my mobile app development strategy about a year ago when I built that particular company, it was really about looking at demand out there and say, okay, there's a lot of demand out there. Most people are getting away from laptops. They're moving to tablets and,
Right,
and mobile
yeah.
phones. How do you capitalize on that strategy? And sometimes some of the best strategy is not something that you come up with, but in my case, it was my then 15-year-old son
Yeah.
who forced me to come up with a strategy to build a company
Right.
that can meet a certain need.
Right. And it's amazing to segue from that. We saw some statistics this afternoon where by 2012, we're looking at going from 7 billion to 50 billion apps and estimated revenue in the somewhere around $17.5 billion in revenue
correct.
off of mobile apps.
Right.
You know,
It's a huge growth market, and when I first started it, it's just like with everything else. You got to find. My strategy is not to compete against Roxio and Zynga. Those
Gotcha.
are the two big Angry Bird app builders,
Right.
and Farmville,
Yeah.
respectively. So if you look at those guys, they're huge in that space. They've got great market share, and when you look at a 17.5 billion market, if you say, okay, I just want like 0.5% of that
Right.
or 1% of that for my niche,
Right.
then that's all I really need to do. I'm going to carve my niche and build out.
Yeah.
But it is part of a targeted strategy to say, I'm going to focus on entertainment, utility, productivity apps.
Right.
And then instead of just building the apps, I'm going to build my own independent mobile app store.
Right.
Because what's happening in the market right now is you see people building, iPhone has an app store and a presence, and of course, Android with Google.
right.
And then born out of all these type of things, you always get the independents out there say, you know what, I don't want to have to always go through those policies, which for us developers, sometimes we submit perfect apps and we get some rejection letters saying, well, it's because of this. Well, I figured, let me build my own mobile app store
Yeah.
and invite the developers in that and make it kind of like we all kind of watch each other.
Right.
And so that's kind of the space where I am now, not only building the apps, but also building a platform to manage, market, and host other developers' apps along with mine.
And so that leads me to a quick question before we go to break. Following up on that, how does that translate into the small business owner? So if I got a convenience store down here, in my mind, I can imagine some things, but you do this for a living. So where are areas that you could see if I own a store, like I noticed the bank sent me a new app that now I can put it on my phone and easily access whatever, but where do you see the future for the small business owner really leveraging apps?
Well, I think, a lot of people have to understand that when I talk to folks, it's B2B and B2C. And so when you have even the consumer who says, hey, I just want to build this, I have this great app idea, I have to figure out, is it an app idea that once it's built has a market? When I look at the small business owner, and I'm always going to different places, and I'm curious to see how they use their phones, how they use their tablets, and whether or not they can actually do the brand for that, and then what kind of branding that can happen on that. So a lot of it is really just branding. You don't need to maybe have a productivity type app.
Gotcha.
Maybe just something that your users can download.
All right. Well, we're going to go to break, and when we come back, we're going to take Neil's opinion and outlook on this. And you were listening to Leslie Wilson of I Am Brand. You got Faith on the board waiting for me to be quiet so she can go to break, which I'm going to do now. Internet-driven technology has revolutionized how global entrepreneurs meet for business. Still, nothing takes the place of a face-to-face meeting with your vendors, customers, or partners. That's why I'm a firm believer in private jet travel. Thanks to my friends at Dreamflight Luxury Travel, long lines, canceled flights, and embarrassing screenings are no longer an issue. Time is money, especially when you need to transport your staff, investors, or clients to a major or remote site around the world. The friendly people at Dreamflight Luxury Travel can create a custom solution for you through their world-renowned Dreamflight Plus card program. Visit them at flydflt.com. Again, one word, flydflt.com. Or simply call them at 1-866-969-3358. Again, that number is 1-866-969-3358 to find out about the Plus card and tell them Johnny Profit sent you.
Globally, there are over 4.5 billion mobile phone subscribers. There's also an expected $17 billion that will be spent on apps for these devices by 2012. Even though times may be tough in the real economy, the virtual world is just heating up. The folks at I Am Brand, LLC can help you leverage this gold rush opportunity through their mobile app and social media expertise. Start increasing your sales and customer retention through their numerous services and products. Contact I Am Brand, LLC at 888-746-8383. Again, that's 888-746-8383.
You're listening to the Global Entrepreneur Radio Show on 1480 AM. Give us a call at 713-784-1480. 713-784-1480.
Okay, so it's 14 minutes past the hour. We're having a good old time up here with Leslie Neal and the wonderful Faith. Say hi, Faith.
Hey.
Because we don't see her today because we have this new camera set up. If you're watching us on Ustream, go to Ustream, look up Global Entrepreneur Radio. Still, we'll change that in the future. But anyway, if you pull up Johnny Profit or Global Entrepreneur Radio, then you can watch the remaining part of the show. Okay? So, but anyway, when we're leaving out, we were just talking about the whole apps market and how you can leverage apps as a business owner, as a professional, to start bringing everything from revenue to customers to just streamlining the process. Now, at the same time, I was curious from Neal, what are some of the security measures or the IT things we could implement to help out on the, let's say, your computer hooked to your network, your phones hooked to your email, all these different ways we use technology, yet we sit here so vulnerable because we are so ignorant at times. So if you could touch on, like, you know, what's going on in that space and what things have you seen that, you know, people could learn from today?
Definitely. I think I want to start off by saying the first thing is that you talk about ignorance. Every company, every business owner, it is their responsibility to educate and teach their employees how to use these tools, because essentially that's all they are, they're tools. I mean, I could give you a hammer and give you a Phillips screw and tell you, go ahead and punch this in the wall. Now, if you start banging away there and hurt your fingers, well, naturally, you're going to do that because I've given you the wrong tool.
Right.
I haven't taught you how to use it. Yeah. And then on top of that, I've given you a screw with no screwdriver. So guess what? You're going to make do.
Yeah.
Okay. So, you know, what I've seen in my business and what I've seen from my customer standpoint is a lot of times, you know, customers are slow to adopt technology because they're afraid of change, number one.
Right.
Number two is that in their environment, there's early adopters. So, for example, you're in a company with, say, 50 employees, and there's going to be 3, 4, 5 guys like me.
Right.
And they're going to want to do this Ustream kind of stuff. They're going to want to do the social media thing. Yeah. And the company president doesn't want that kind of stuff on the network.
Yeah.
Is it good? Is it bad? Well, you know, it's kind of debatable. There's good and bad on both sides, okay? So if you as a company owner don't embrace the technology, don't teach your staff, then yes, you're going to be vulnerable. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of vulnerabilities. I mean, even, you know, let's talk about an example here real quick. I received an email the other day. And it was from a credible source, and it was about another credible source. Right. Everybody knows Google. Right. Everybody goes to Google to search and find, you know, the restaurant down the street, or, you know, find a coffee shop or whatever they look for. Yeah. By the same token, Google has a huge repository of images. You know, you go to Google Images, you can pretty much type anything you want and you'll find an image. That's right. You know, especially if you want to use it in a flyer, marketing material, whatever. This email I received the other day was a security bulletin, and it was addressing the issue concerning images that were, what's the right word to use, implanted with code. So as you download this image from a source that you consider to be, you know, safe, right. Google, you download an image, and what happens is with this image, it automatically retrieves a third-party application, whether it be a security issue, whether it be just a pop-up kind of device, which just annoyance. You know, it's downloading these third-party tools that these hackers are creating, and you're not knowing that this is happening because you just downloaded an image, and that's as far as you're concerned, that's all you did.
And the scary part about that, I've actually had an instance where a friend was fired from a major hospital system because they were accused of putting pornography on their computer. Mm-hmm. When in reality, I know firsthand, I could vouch for them 1,000 different ways that would never cross their mind. And so because the folks in the IT department, shall I say, were not that bright, and right. forensics was not their background, right. they released her, I mean, just nothing. And so when you think about the capital, the loss to the organization, to the community, because you're letting your IT system, or you're letting someone who really has no sense, you know, they got a degree maybe from somewhere and they threw them in that position because they had a friend, which is what we fight at Global Entrepreneur Broadcast, how that opens somebody up, you know, and it kills me. Now you're talking about a whole new way that somebody in a department or at a store could download something thinking they're going to make a quick flyer, and the next thing you know, they've wiped out the entire system in the organization. I just had a client last week. Okay, innocently, she has no idea what she did. Right. You know, I went to visit her last Friday, and her machine doesn't boot up. I mean, this is a very simple example of what I'm talking about. Machine doesn't boot up. I asked her, where did she go? What sites did you visit? When the machine last came up, what did it do? Were there any annoying pop-ups?
Like ER.
Yeah. You know, was it asking you to pay $50 for a virus removal tool? You know, things like that. And she has no clue what she did, and the machine's dead. I mean, you know, we're kind of getting a little techie here, but just for some of you that are listening, I mean, you know what I'm talking about here. I mean, if you take a Windows CD and try to reinstall Windows on top of itself, you'll
Yeah, we'll
okay,
get-
all
we'll
right,
get-
all right.
let's-
We're gonna get into a fight here.
Right, we got our Mac man in here. We got the Apple guy in here.
Windows. Go ahead.
We really have the commercial going on in here right now.
But you know, on the spot, I tried to reinstall Windows as a parallel install, which is one way of getting around the
Right,
issue,
yeah.
and it wouldn't have it. It wouldn't let me do it. So that tells me that it got beyond the operating system. I
Yeah.
mean, it affected master boot record, things
Yeah,
like that.
right.
And a lot of people don't understand this stuff. And what they end up doing is they end up hiring somebody that's, you know, for example, you know, Daisy's sons, nephews, brothers,
Right,
sisters,
yeah.
whatever. And these people aren't really qualified to do this kind of stuff. I mean, you know, if you run a business, the way I usually tell people is if you run a business, you don't hire the bookie to run your books.
Right.
You hire an accountant.
Yeah.
And you don't hire, you know, John's nephew to take care of your IT systems. You hire a guy who knows how to run your IT system.
And that really lends to you get what you pay for.
Pretty much.
Okay, from both organizations, even from me, and because, like you said, often I'll run into the case where someone wants to save a dollar. What's that? A pound foolish? Whatever, something. Anybody got it?
Pennywise, pound foolish.
Yeah.
There you go.
There you go. See, I knew they know. So, and we see this all the time in every industry where you have a successful business, but you're trying to hoard it all to yourself, and you decide, like you said, you're going to get someone that is the cheapest to come in and do, whether it's the social media, the app side, or the IT side. And, you know, it's one of those things where I can't emphasize enough that as an entrepreneur, your job is really to get the most from the best. You know, if you run a small business and you're thinking, if you're an employee, you're always trying to save your owner, your master money, okay, and you're trying to keep your job. But as an entrepreneur, your job is to get the most from the best. And so, you know, it's one of those things where, are there any sites, and I know this is a very popular question, is there any program out there that actually defends, not you, Leslie, Windows system? Because, you know, I mean, that's a big thing. We got AVG stuck on there. You know, it's free. We don't want to play Norton because we couldn't get that off if we wanted to. And so, you know, I have a case where a gentleman gave me his computer the other day, and now every time he has a hijack browser, or, you know, and so now every time he clicks up, it says log into MSN, and then we know that's not MSN. So
There's lots of utilities out there. As to how effective they are, again, going back to, you know, tools and their use.
Right.
You know, it really boils down to corporate policy. I mean, usually, you know, for my clients, it doesn't matter how big you are. It could be a two-man company or it could be a Fortune 500. I mean, I've worked with large companies, small companies, and we develop policies because it's part of that roadmap. You know, your strategy is not just how much money can you make.
Right.
It's also how much can you save and how can you prevent downtime from happening, because that's indirectly costing you money.
you got it.
You know, so as far as these utilities are concerned, there's a dime a dozen utilities. The problem with them is that the majority of them are either freeware, shareware, or spyware, and you don't know which one you're downloading. You know, so the reality is that if you really do want to protect your business, you want to protect your data, your systems, your environment. You want to, you know, you're paying somebody $14 an hour to do your bookkeeping for you, example, and they're down 10 hours in the day for 1 week.
Yeah.
That's $140. Would it make sense to spend $80 on a paid utility that does its job? I
Right.
think so. You know, I mean, there's lots of them out there.
I think it's interesting in technology. I think, Neil, you can probably see this, that, you know, in your family, like, everybody seems to think that if you're in technology that you fix this or you're part of this. You know, I'm like the family IT guy,
Exactly.
and I have nothing to do that. Now, I know how
Man,
to
I'm
do.
at Best Buys right now. What you think?
What do you want me to do? Hey, I got this program. So I always try to tell people, and this is what I've learned in running my business, is that when you run a technology software company like I do, you know, I tell people, I said, I'm the programmer, I'm the software guy. I said, you know, Neil is the hardware guy, he's the desktop guy. And then you have some people who are the server guys, and they work on those environments. And in technology, it's almost like my days in trading.
Yeah.
You know, there's a front office, mid office, and a back office. And so when you look at, in the analogy in technology, the programming is the front office, you know, the desktop support and all is the mid office, and the server support and infrastructure is the back office. And people need to understand when they ask that question, hey, Neil, can you program this app for me? And it's like, oh, that's not saying that he may not be able to do it, but that's not what he does every day. So he said, no, I don't do that, but I know someone to do. So for me, as a small business owner, I come across opportunities all the time. And when people say, hey, you're doing some development here, you're doing some branding, social media, but hey, I got these systems over here, Windows, that I need some support on. You know, who do you work with that? I'm like, no, I don't. But I have a gentleman named Neil that I can introduce you to and let him kind of carry that relationship on that side of it.
So it really does sound like a physician's referral service, and we all have our specialty.
Yes.
You know, you don't want to take your, and that's the funny part about a gentleman asking me to come in and look at their network. And I'm like, looking at all these wires, like, at home, I know how to work this router, but do you see all those lights? You know, like, well, go ahead.
I was going to say, but you know, there's a difference between a physician's referral service, because those guys don't negotiate prices.
Exactly.
When you want to hire a tech guy, you're looking for bottom of the barrel. I mean, come on. Why, you know, if you go to the doctor, you don't say, okay, well, what's your co-payment?
Right.
You go in there and say, hey, you know, doctor, this is what's wrong with me. And they tell you, well, you know, here's $50, pay this first. And
That sounds like a new business, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
Tech insurance.
tech insurance. Okay. But in the tech business, you know, you call a guy, he's like, hey, how much you charge? And the guy tells you, you know, hey, I charge $90 an hour.
Yeah.
Granted, he may be able to do the job in 20 minutes.
Right.
But you know what?
You're
You're going to go to Johnny's sons, brothers, sisters, nephews, whatever, because he's only going to charge you $15 an hour, but he'll spend a whole day doing it and you'll have downtime.
Exactly.
You know, where's the sense in this? As an entrepreneur, I mean, your whole mission in life is to basically maximize your return at every single moment, whether it be from hiring somebody, whether it be from buying and selling something,
Yeah.
you know, whatever it may be.
That's amazing, because you're right. It does lend itself to when I'm thinking about the medical system as far as bottom line. Thank you. 2 minutes. But from the bottom line standpoint, really being able to find the right person, and more importantly, being willing to realize if your business is your life, it's similar to your real life. Do you really want to just put it in the hands of someone that, you know, is the cheapest? And it just doesn't make sense. Again, I don't really get into the passion part, and we talk about it quite often. But if your business is your passion, why would you risk everything you've put into it on inexperience? So were you about to say something?
No, I think I got 4 words that I always use for anyone, small business owners in particular, is that stay in your lane.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm actually going to have my nephew create me a nice little graphic about that, because I want to use that when I talk to people, is that I've learned to stay in my lane. I've learned how to have strategic relationships with folks who, when someone says, well, is that your competitor? I'm like, it could be, but that's also a skill set I don't have.
Yes.
And so instead of me saying, oh, I'm going to build that in-house, I said, look, I'm going to partner with you. And then when we have an opportunity for a lead or something, I send it your way, then we're going to come up to a financial agreement that, hey, based on this lead, you can either put X amount of margin on that, or you can pay some kind of fee, and I'll do vice versa.
Right. Ding! You heard the word strategy during that program. Go ahead,
And
Vinny.
you know, I just had to just add in there real quick.
Please
when
do.
you all are talking about all this, it goes back to the analogy of flying.
Yeah.
If you're a pilot, some people fly globally, some
Big
people
plane,
fly,
yeah.
you know, nationally. So, but if you're flying one plane, you can't be expected to fly the other 4 or 5 planes that are going to other
the
places.
rules say we can't
Are
do
you trying
that.
to say stay in your plane? Are
Stay-
you trying to take
Like stay in
Yes.
your lane, isn't
Yes.
it? Oh, there you
So
go.
the whole time I
see a
was like, I
second
want to jump
graphic
in.
coming up.
Literally, I mean, that's literally how I was thinking about it. And when you said stay in your lane, I was like, exactly. You know, there's only so much you can do, and you can really only be proficient at so much.
And
So
you're right. And I think the corporate world has kind of skewed things as far as trying to get the most out of employees by making them do everything, as you're saying, trying to train them to do everything they can possibly put in them because they're pulling people out, but then they're really not good at anything.
Right.
You know, whereas on our end, we're like, we are good at what we do, respect that, and understand that sometimes we say no. You know,
Absolutely.
That's one of the other differences between being an employee and an entrepreneur. We can say no and mean it.
Just did it last night for someone. You know,
Yeah.
At some point, as a business owner, you have to look at all deals and say not all money is good money.
Correct.
Because sometimes you'll spend 10x on a deal that you're trying to help someone out, and it's not even worth it. You just lose money along the way. So
Every
I
time.
totally believe that.
And I get the signal. You're listening to Neil, Leslie, and Johnny Prophet, along with Faith over there running the board. We'll be right back after these messages on Global Entrepreneur Broadcast, the new one. You didn't like that?
Globally, there are over 4.5 billion mobile phone subscribers. There's also an expected $17 billion that will be spent on apps for these devices by 2012. Even though times may be tough in the real economy, the virtual world is just heating up. The folks at IAM Brand LLC can help you leverage this gold rush opportunity through their mobile app and social media expertise. Start increasing your sales and customer retention through their numerous services and products. Contact IAM Brand LLC at 888-746-8383. Again, that's 888-746-8383.
with so much clutter and digital noise in the marketplace, it's nice to be able to just pick up a local newspaper and read about our small business community. Hello, friends. This is Miss Faith here to say that I recommend you grab a copy of the Houston International Star today. This bi-weekly newspaper was thoughtfully designed to serve as a connection between the small business community and the corporate world. For your free copy, or better yet, to showcase your business in the next edition, email the wonderful folks at the Houston International Star today. Send your requests, questions, or comments to info@HoustonINTstar.com. This gem of a paper provides great articles from local and international leaders, as well as bridges the gap between the local small business owner and our area corporate and government agency, all in an effort to stimulate our economy, one entrepreneur at a time. Again, that's info@HoustonINTstar.com to find out more about the Houston International Star. The Global Entrepreneur Radio Team is committed to bringing you information that can fast-track your business concept from a blueprint on a napkin all the way to a job-creating, community-building, economic resource within the market. Tune in to the Global Entrepreneur Radio Show every Wednesday from 2 to 3 p.m. on Hum Tum City Radio, 1480 AM.
Internet-driven technology has revolutionized how global entrepreneurs meet for business. Still, nothing takes the place of a face-to-face meeting with your vendors, customers, or partners. That's why I'm a firm believer in private jet travel. Thanks to my friends at Dreamflight Luxury Travel, long lines, canceled flights, and embarrassing screenings are no longer an issue. Time is money, especially when you need to transport your staff, investors, or clients to a major or remote site around the world. The friendly people at Dreamflight Luxury Travel can create a custom solution for you through their world-renowned Dreamflight Plus card program. Visit them at flydflt.com. Again, one word, flydflt.com, or simply call them at 1-866-969-3358. Again, that number is 1-866-969-3358 to find out about the Plus card and tell them Johnny Profit sent you.
You're listening to the Global Entrepreneur Radio Show on 1480 AM. Give us a call at 713-784-1480. 713-784-1480.
All right, and welcome back to Global Entrepreneur Broadcast. I have in studio with me Neil Patel and Leslie Wilson, along with Faith Ukanwa. We never say your last name. You know, I realized that.
It's true.
Ukanwa.
And what is that derived from?
It's Igbo from Nigeria.
Nigeria.
Mm-hmm.
So we try to represent the globe here whenever possible. So, but we were talking about the whole tech side of business, and if you have questions, we really didn't give the number because we've been chatting today, and we figured you guys end up hitting us up on Facebook or MySpace or LinkedIn or something like that. But you want to give the number because I know you know it.
Okay.
713-784-1480.
That's 713-784-1480.
Thank you very much, Faith. So, in this segment, I would like to go back to the whole leveraging the social media, leveraging the app side of it, because I'm going to work with you. I want an app. We're working on an app. We want an app because we know we want to start transferring our information, our knowledge to the market without having to repeat ourselves over and over again. Mm-hmm. So we're looking at it from a automation standard where it's like, that's less salespeople we can send out to do other things. That's less people, you know, that's less clerical we have because now it all goes to their phone or their iPads and it comes back to us. So if you can kind of expand on, from a business owner's perspective, how is this changing business, or how has it changed your business, the whole app side of it first, then social media side of it?
Yeah, I think that the two can actually work quite hand in hand. When I first started out, my company was based on, you know, as a former developer, we developed desktop application, then client server application, then you move over to the web. And during that time frame, what became very prevalent over the last several years is that there's this Web 2.0 strategy that everybody knows, and that is Web 3.0. And so that means, you know, basically we went from static HTML sites to more dynamic content management rich sites. Right. And so what that does, that leads up to kind of where we are in the app space, is that a lot of sites that are heavy in content, what a lot of people think is that, okay, you build this app and you got all this data stored on your smartphone. Well, that's not really what it is. It's really more of a web service. It's a service coming from your content management system. So let's say if you use Drupal or Joomla or WordPress, there's a lot of content on those sites that you can actually create that kind of push that information over to your smartphone or to your tablet. So for a lot of people who think, oh, I need an app and I want an iPhone app. So the first thing I ask them is there anything specific, is there any native features on the iPhone that are specific to your app concept?
Okay.
Well, no, I have an iPhone, so I want to pull it up. So they assume it's an iPhone app. Right. And so, well, actually, it's a mobile app that happens to render on an iPhone, but it can render on a Samsung or any other type of tool or device out there. So what I'm starting to see is this paradigm shift into not just an iPhone app, but a cross-platform app, for one thing. So they can go across, build it one time, and use what we call wrappers, which is just a piece of code from iPhone, a piece of code from Android, and different ones to kind of all use one code base.
Right.
And then the next thing is actually the mobile websites. So let's say we take, for example, we take Percent and we create a mobile version of that. And then the mobile version that renders differently on each type of phone. So now you have all the content coming from your current site, but it renders on your smartphone. So when you make updates to your mobile website, it renders onto your phone, and you can create navigation buttons and everything on that phone to do that. So that's really part of your brand. So that's the most cost-effective way. Because anytime you have to build something using native code for iPhone, it's Objective-C, and then for Android, it's Java. It's more targeted coding. I have to have specialized developers doing that. But nowadays, in the mobile website world and the mobile apps, you can use HTML5 and CSS and JavaScript, which are more akin to website development. Yeah. And so now you're able to, the costs have decreased, but when you do the platform, when you submit the app, or when you actually launch it, it's not mobile app specific. It's not iPhone or Android. It's really any kind of smartphone out there.
Okay, so you touched on that whole content management system, and I know for a lot of people, it'll be years before they hear it, if they hear it at all. Could you explain a little bit how content management systems work? Because when we do social media, that is one of the things I emphasize. Like, it's great if you go to a friend and they do your standard HTML site and they set it up, but we've really moved past that. So if you could touch on that.
Yeah, I think you're right. In the past, when you do the static sites, someone say, okay, I'm going to download the HTML and I'm going to use a product like Dreamweaver or any other tool to kind of update it. Right. Well, for the common, for the everyday person, layperson, that's not something they want to get into. Nobody wants to mess around with HTML and all the different elements of that. So what happens over the last several years, it's kind of really picked up, is you see companies like Tumblr, WordPress, Drupal once again, Magento, and Joomla. And so what's happening that when I talk to people, I always recommend that they go to content management system, because quite frankly, I don't want them calling me or my people up in the middle of the night if they need to make content changes. So when you look at content management, it's basically each page is its own separate page where you can go on and upload images, you can change the content on that page, and it's all done. For example, if you're using a tool like WordPress, they have an HTML, they have a page that looks just like a Microsoft Word page. And literally, you just go in and type in what you want, you bold it, you upload images, next thing you know, you publish that, and it's now live on your site. So you don't need me to program it. Only if there's elements that require specific programming are required, but otherwise, if you the key word is content management, then you're strictly just managing your content.
But does that work? I know the answer, but I want to get your opinion on it. It works for both small and large companies.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's the big thing now. So when we do a lot of when we do things around search engine optimization and we do content management, the one thing I always tell people, I say, this sounds kind of techie, but the search engines actually send out spiders and robots to really index your site. So they basically take your content and they store it in this huge database somewhere so they can be retrieved and cached for later. And then, so what you need to do is, the only way you get those robots and spiders to come to your site is you have to have dynamic content. Well, with the advent of social media, we now have the ability to take our Twitter feeds and our Facebook feeds and put that on our site. And what the bots see is that they see active content moving on your site. So literally, they just kind of come there every day and they're always checking to see what's going on there. So the advent of the social media and the content management system as a product that's come full circle, that's really huge right now when you want to build your site as a small business owner.
Yeah, because I know firsthand, I just put that you two were on here and I got like 4 or 5 more Twitter followers. I'm being serious. It was like within seconds because all mine feeds back to my phone. I get it somewhere. But, last week we were not live. We put in a pre-recorded show and we didn't really have much activity because, we can follow statistics, data points, all that. And sure enough, I put in there, you two are going to be on there. And next thing I know, ding, 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 got some new followers. So you're right. Making it active,
Absolutely. I mean, you think about it from you're linking up some of the largest sites in the world. You got Twitter, you got Facebook. And if you use YouTube, instead of going in and uploading a 3 to 5 megabyte video on your site, you can just get an embedded link from YouTube, which is one of the #1 sites in the world, and stream that over to your site.
And I've heard that a few major organizations, both governmental and corporate, have actually begun shutting down their site and just leveraging Facebook and some of the other LinkedIn to run their presence online, which at the same time is a very risky proposition considering when you look at how these systems are set up and the fact that you don't own the content. Would you speak to that a little bit?
Sure. Excuse me. Great example of that is YouTube. You could upload as many videos as you want. It's all innocent. I mean, I'm a late adopter to all these things because I'm kind of a little on the cautious side.
Right.
But YouTube's policy is, for example, if you upload a video, for example, and then at a later date decide, well, I don't want that up there anymore. It's not yours to take down. Yeah. It doesn't belong to you. So if you are going to be using a lot of these authority sites, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, know that, the data you put up there should be data that you don't mind losing, because if you go in with that strategy and you can't get it back or the server gets hacked and the data disappears, you got nothing to worry about. Yeah. But if you're going to basically bet that your business is going to run off of these websites, solely, you're going to live off of Facebook as your web page rather than having your own website. Right. I would say that's a big mistake. I think you should leverage it. Right. I think you should bring traffic and visitors from Facebook. Absolutely. But I don't think you should have all your eggs in one basket. Right. And certainly the baskets you don't control.
Exactly.
Right.
I think for me, from a small business perspective, and you look at opportunity, is that I actually built a social media marketing piece to my firm about a year ago because of the demand I was getting once I would put that on there. People want to know how do I manage and keep up with my fans and followers and how do I get the content? So I actually provided a service that did that, and that's been a real great revenue generator for me.
Right. So we're going to go to break. And when we get back, I want to touch more on that whole, talk about more of that security issue, because again, I can't emphasize enough in these training sessions when I'm explaining to folks that 1, you don't own it, and 2, you give it away, and 3, if one of these server farms should shut down, your site is shut down. I mean, I've had issues with Facebook all week of just running slow, so I don't check in, so I'm not as productive. But again, Ms. Faith, we're going to break, right?
Correct.
And we'll be right back after these messages.
Globally, there are over 4.5 billion mobile phone subscribers. There's also an expected $17 billion that will be spent on apps for these devices by 2012. Even though times may be tough in the real economy, the virtual world is just heating up. The folks at Iron Brand, LLC can help you leverage this gold rush opportunity through their mobile app and social media expertise. Start increasing your sales and customer retention through their numerous services and products. Contact Iron Brand LLC at 888-746-8383. Again, that's 888-746-8383.
With so much clutter and digital noise in the marketplace, it's nice to be able to just pick up a local newspaper and read about our small business community. Hello, friends. This is Miss Faith here to say that I recommend you grab a copy of the Houston International Star today. This bi-weekly newspaper was thoughtfully designed to serve as a connection between the small business community and the corporate world. For your free copy, or better yet, to showcase your business in the next edition, email the wonderful folks at the Houston International Star today. Send your requests, questions, or comments to info@HoustonINTstar.com. This gem of a paper provides great articles from local and international leaders, as well as bridges the gap between the local small business owner and our area corporate and government agency, all in an effort to stimulate our economy, one entrepreneur at a time. Again, that's info@HoustonINTstar.com to find out more about the Houston International Star. You're listening to the Global Entrepreneur Radio Show on 1480 AM. Give us a call at 713-784-1480. 713-784-1480.
All right, you got the number. We've got time. Welcome back to Global Entrepreneur Broadcast. I'm your host, Johnny Prophet, and Faith is holding up the one sign.
Yes, because I had one long sentence to say.
Okay,
great. So I just want to let everyone out there know, if you ever have questions or anything, if you want to call up the PERT Center, the number to reach us at is 888-380-4249. Again, that's 888-380-4249. And if we're on, if you're on Facebook or Twitter or anything like that, you can just check us out at the PERT Center. Okay.
Or Johnny Prophet.
Or Johnny Prophet, either one.
Center.
All right.
And so, yeah, back to that security stuff, since you mentioned Facebook and all that other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Neil, I have this big issue with folks getting on and saying things they shouldn't. And if you could touch on some of the techniques, whether it be lenders, investors, employers, that they're using to go and probe these sites to basically reference your character. If you could just touch on that a little bit to give people an idea of just how big social media and putting anything online is from that standpoint.
Sure. I think the first thing is that social media is obviously it's a great way to communicate with peers, friends, family, and so on and so forth, and it has a lot of uses. Unfortunately, some of those uses aren't exactly positive, and a great example of that could be, you show up at work on Tuesday because you didn't go in on Monday, and your doctor buddy from next door decides he's going to write you a letter. And there are corporations now that have within their HR department individuals, and their whole mission in life is to scour your Facebook profile to see what you've been up to, what you've been doing. And as part of their basically, their risk assessment, is it worth hiring this guy? Is this guy a risk to the company? And if they find out that, you're not showing up for work on Monday, you got a doctor's note, but then on your Facebook profile, you're talking about you had a great jamming session Sunday night.
Right. Yeah.
Well, you're really asking to be fired. And so whilst there is some valuable uses for, social media, Facebook and so forth,
right.
I mean, these are the things that can get you into trouble. So if you plan on doing stuff like that,
right.
social media is not for you. You shouldn't be on there.
Right. Mixing that whole business and pleasure thing. Go ahead, Leslie.
But I think that's life. I mean, just like in life, if you do something that has nothing to do with social media and is wrong and there's consequences to it, or if you do something right and there's benefits from it, it's the same thing with social media. I mean, so you have to go into it thinking, for me as a business owner, I have a couple of company brands out there, I Am Mobile Apps and I Am Brands. And so when I have my team go out and create followers and fans on each one of them and kind of build up my brand, it actually helped my business. It helped to actually solidify me as a subject matter expert. Now, obviously, I know this well enough to know that I'm not going to make any statements, but I'm also not going to be a drone or robot and say, well, I can only say certain things, so I don't want to. I'm not trying to appease everyone. If you go to my Facebook page and someone brings up a political topic and I feel passionate about it, I'm going to speak my mind about it.
I think we have a room of non-appeasers in
right.
Right.
So my thing is, it's just like any tool that you use. If you abuse it, it can come back to haunt you. If you use it properly, it can strongly benefit you.
And just really be mindful of the fact, to Neil's point, that there are teams, and we use it as well. Like I said, before I met either one of you, I did a Google search, a Facebook search. I'm on private everything, but a lot of people are not.
How dare you?
Like the song says, Google me. And it's one of those where it is amazing how powerful it is and how misused it is by a lot of folks that just assume that, they don't equate it to what you do online travels 10 times faster than what you do in real life.
I want to throw out one more thing there. When face to face with somebody, you have your opinion of the individual in question, and you never quite express yourself in the way you do when it's not face to face. Case in point, social media. I mean, on social media, you can say whatever you want because the guy's not there to smack you, right? I mean, he's not going to be doing anything. There's no consequence, so to speak.
Right.
Okay. The flip side of that is, and this is something that if the listeners are listening to this, they need to really kind of pay attention to this. Is, it's great to be on Facebook and talk about hey, you're going on vacation, you're doing this, you're doing that, and talk about things that you're doing with your family. But there is a darker side to that, and this is from personal experience. It hasn't happened to me, but I know somebody it's happened to, that where they publicized where they were going, what they were doing. They talk, there was so much data in their Facebook wall that it was real easy for a stranger to walk into that wall and find out where this person lives. They cleaned this guy's house out when he went on vacation.
Exactly. Yeah. And
it happens, and you need to be real mindful of that and be careful what you say and how you say and who you say to, and more importantly, who you let on your Facebook profile as a friend.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I think that really goes back to the stay in your lane. If you're doing this for your business, I'll be the first to say that's something you need to outsource to someone like you, Leslie. And I'm being for real. And it's not a plug. It's one of those, you need to have someone that knows what they're doing, especially if you're trying to scale your business and grow it out. Okay. You cannot sit here and I don't care how many apps you have running as far as TweetDeck and all that. You need to have somebody that's responsible, that isn't a core of your business, that has the time and the resources to make sure that the things that are going out are responsible and accurate. And I mean, that's what you do, right? So
that's a fair point. I think for me, if you look at your brand, I have my personal Facebook page, and if you go on there, you may see me smoking a cigar and hanging out in San Francisco at Fisherman's Wharf.
Right.
So that's part of my that's my personality. But if you go to my I Am Mobile Apps fan page, or I Am Brands fan page, or I Am the Coolest Geek, whichever one I got there, you're going to see that very targeted to the folks that's part of my fan base and are part of the followers. So I'm not going to get into a lot of personal stuff about, hey, I just went to my son's track meet and they won district at Strake Jesuit. Right. Congratulations. And so, I mean, it just all really comes down to how you use it properly, just like anything else. I mean, a lot of people make the privacy policy, which I'm sure Neil can go into, and that's a huge thing, that there's settings in your Facebook and in your different tools that you can do your best to try to eliminate as much of that leakage as possible, that may happen.
Right. And that, just real quick, that goes back to ding. You didn't hear it, but he referred to strategy. Okay, go on.
Neil, did you have something to say?
Yeah, I did actually. I saw this on, I forget which news channel it was. It was on the news channel the other night. I was sitting at home. It was kind of about, I think, 5-6 o'clock news channel. And you know how we're all like, I mean, even the non-techie in us is kind of techie to a certain degree, because we all have like, Android phones or a Windows 7. I know you hate Windows, but Windows 7 phone or whatever. We're busy with these phones. We've got Facebook profiles. We've got a Twitter profile, and we've got applications on our phone that basically interacts with these websites. And then what we're doing is we're taking pictures with our smartphone and we're uploading them, right? But I'd never in my wildest dreams imagined that there was a danger to that, but there is. And the danger is that if you've got your GPS turned on your phone, it geotags the image.
Right.
Okay. And, when I got thinking about this, it was like, oh my God, if my kid's got a phone and I've given him a phone for safety and he's out taking pictures of his buddies in the park and he's uploaded to Facebook and somebody sees the geotag, I mean, there's no telling what can happen in that park. I mean, I'm not there.
Right, exactly.
And I mean, these are small little bits of information that we don't get to hear about or we don't get to learn about until something happens.
You're right. And again, it's one of those, I feel after checking out The World is Flat, reading that book and listening to it a few times, I agree, disagree, it is what it is. But more to the point that the world is now so well connected, and the dark